Good morning to our wonderful audience. Since you're all here at Bookmark, I presume you're okay with this session being a little bit more industry focused than we normally would do, because there are plenty of other platforms to have a more general discussion on AI, and I'm sure you will have seen pretty much every session there is an AI angle. So we're going to give you ours, but specific to book publishing and digital media. And we'll try and focus on some of the questions which are affecting our industry, and from two people who work on it sort of on the front lines, if I could say that. I won't go over your introductions again, because I think we have exactly 35 minutes and I don't want to waste time on that. But since you're both doing something which is, you're at the forefront of seeing the adoption of AI beyond pitch decks and conversations and the discussions we have on stages like this, I want to know from both of you. Samir, you can go first, and then Emma, after that you. Are you actually seeing the adoption of AI, or are you just seeing a lot of people talking about it? I'm quite curious. And can you also tell us what it is exactly that you're doing with Stack with you, and with you, Emma, the kind of clients you work with, and how are they dealing with AI?
So I'll start with, I think AI usage is 100% happening at the level of an individual. All the numbers point to that. Yesterday, I think Claude, which is among the smaller of the big LLMs, released their number. India is the number 2 user for Claude as well. So, and around the world, like everybody, every writer is using it for research, all kinds of things. I think what has not yet happened is it hasn't translated into how the work process has changed, how the business process may have changed around publishing, marketing, so on. It's very early days. But at the same time, this is the fastest adoption, consumer and business adoption of any new technology that you can ever have measured. There are these very famous charts showing how long does it take to get to 100 million devices. This has taken less than 6 months. The radio took 60 years or whatever. So I think usage, that's the thing. In terms of what I am trying to do, some of you may have been in the session yesterday, and I shouldn't call myself a veteran, but as a long-suffering member of the publishing industry, I would say that we have nothing to lose by looking at how AI can change the economics. With Stack, we are trying to completely invert the model. So this is my favorite hobby horse, bear with me, which is the publishing industry is used to first paying the author, then second paying, and nobody has yet paid you. You've paid the author, you've paid the printer, you've paid the distributor, you've paid the wholesaler. Then Amazon collects the money, and then you now wait, right? This cycle takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. This is insane. All the publishing industry's money is stuck in the least productive cycle of this. I would want a situation where this thing is entirely reversed. You pay the author first, and that's the only person you pay first. After that, you build out the audience, and only when somebody buys your book, whether physical, digital, doesn't matter, you can then start the payment process to your printers and so on. May seem like a small step, but it's a giant leap for the industry. Because I think as a result, a mid-sized publisher could have 100 imprints. Like my goal is more, experimentation, far more different kinds of imprints, and India should be at the sort of ground zero for this, because we have so many different languages, so many different people with international publishing experience. So that's what I'm trying to do, completely, entirely reverse the chain in which the way the publishing thing works.
So I think AI adoption amongst publishers goes from some publishers saying absolutely not, blanket ban, not looking at it, not interested, through to other publishers that really are on full-scale adoption. But I would say the majority of the industry falls somewhere in between, and they're really at the experimental stage. So trying out different tools that would make the workflow a lot more efficient. So really looking at how can they save time, how can they save money, how can they take away some of those menial tasks that they currently pay somebody to do but could be done by the machine. And I think that's a whole different conversation around, is AI taking away jobs in the publishing industry, something we talk about quite a lot. But I think if publishing can become more efficient, then it also frees people up to spend more time on the creative process and less on the administrative process. So things like automating metadata and creating really good, clean metadata that can be updated on a much more regular basis, that can be adaptable. I think that's a great example of where all publishers should be doing that. It's a no-brainer. I think traditionally publishing has been quite slow compared to other creative industries when it comes to adopting technology. So if we think back to music in the early days of streaming, publishing was very slow to come to the game on that, but I think that paid off as well. I think we're quite a cautious industry. I think we watch and see what everyone else is doing, see the mistakes they're making before we dive right in. I think there are things to lose, so I kind of disagree with you a little bit there, Samir. I think there are things to lose, and obviously I think anyone who is part of the creative process will agree that what's happened with the LLMs and training on copyrighted materials without permission, without remuneration is wrong, and we want to see an end to that. We want to see that stop, and we want to see that change to a more opt-in basis with fair remuneration. And I think creatives are very nervous about more works being stolen. But I think, you know, there's a lot of tools out there that have been developed, like Editrix, for example, by people that know the publishing industry, that respect the publishing industry and have built their tools with that in mind, and therefore they're safe tools to use. They're built with publishers in mind, and publishers should be experimenting with those.
Thank you, Emma. Both of you have, as you rightly said, Samir, you're talking about adoption and how, weirdly, for AI, it feels like the fastest adoption curve, but also the slowest adoption curve, all at once. It's everything all at once. And I'm going to talk about something which I don't talk about very much, which is an unsaid friction which is happening within teams, within large organizations. And I'm quite curious to know how many people in the audience from the publishing industry here. Would you like to raise your hands? So quite a few, there's quite a few people. So I, just park this one and let me know, when you ask your questions, if this is happening to you. One thing I don't see is incentives lined up. So when we say efficiencies, we mean, who do those efficiencies accrue to? That hasn't become very clear. So while, yes, absolutely, the technology is being adopted very, very fast, we know that from the numbers. At the same time, we're also seeing a very high degree of shadow use, which is people using AI without saying they're using AI.
Yeah.
And what I have seen, the reason for that is because organizations don't always have very clear policies. They're not sure whether they should or they shouldn't. And also, to put it very bluntly, if they do more work, will they be expected to do more work and be paid for it or not? And so that is something I'm quite curious about. Are you seeing that? How should organizations react to this? How should they make it a safe, easy, and sort of collaborative way for their employees to be able to use AI without feeling like they're just being given more work, without necessarily being paid more or feeling like none of this helps them directly?
Yeah, so my bias is that I think so there are two, very simplistically speaking, there are two paths to using AI inside of an enterprise or a publishing kind of context. One is, of course, trying to squeeze out costs from the existing thing, and I think it would be absolutely the wrong way to go. I would say the second kind of thing is to build entirely new, this is a classic business school or business world dilemma, which is that, it's not the diesel or petrol car companies that came up with the EV, right? So the question is the publishing industry going to be able to build new imprints, for example, which have a very different cost structure than your previous one, but yeah, it's a positive project, right? It is not about reducing costs. It's useless. Cost cannot be reduced so easily. It's already industry is long suffering from like so many cost cuts. I don't understand what else would happen. I would focus entirely on positive projects, entirely on growth projects, Like, I'll give you my favorite hobby horse. India has a huge 20 million diaspora around the world. And we don't have imprints that actually tackle some of the things that are happening with the diaspora. We, one size fits all.
You should start one and stack.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm here. In fact, anybody, so we have somebody who's going to use Stack. Amrita Tripathi here, she's building out a new imprint. Say Again Press, we have a session later.
Stand up, Amrita. This is a trade session.
Yes.
Plug yourself.
Yeah. So she's building an entirely new imprint. So I would say that India is like at the early stage of the publishing industry for itself. We have 1 billion people. So I think all this loser talk of cost cutting and all, we should just forget it. It's not going to, we already cut costs. I would focus on the revenue. I would focus on new projects. I would then integrate AI from ground up, right? What does a zero-based organization look like for a new imprint? It would only have editors. Like, you don't need anything. With Stack and with Editrix, you will need fewer editors. But think sort of positive and not like, okay, let's reduce cost.
So you're saying move the conversation away from let's do cost cutting to let's increase revenue, which is a really
100%.
positive way to think about it.
It's a waste of time, this cost cutting business. I used to be at McKinsey many years ago. So.
Yeah, I think that's hugely exciting, actually, Samir. And I love the approach of, let's just rethink publishing. Let's start again. And I think going back to the incentives, Meru, I see 2 incentives. One is selling more books, which ultimately every author wants, every publisher wants. And I think AI can really help sell more books. So I think that's an incentive. If it's really used effectively and efficiently to increase awareness, increase discoverability, help readers find books, help books find their readers, then that's a brilliant use case for AI. The other one is, as I said, taking away the jobs that nobody wants to do. And making it
metadata,
like metadata, and just making it more efficient and making it more effective. So a good example could be brand templates that are used across the business. Everybody's always reinventing the boilerplate. Well, if you have a really good brand management using agentic AI, then that can be rolled out across the business. So I think it can be more efficient without being cost cutting. So I think you're right, cost cutting's the wrong way to approach it. Yeah. But how do we free people up to be more creative and concentrate on the things that they really enjoy, the things that they're really good at? We're a creative industry and we want creative people in the business. But I also think, going back to your point about reinventing the industry, one publisher I'm working with has got a whole new editorial team, and they don't just, they want to embed AI from the very beginning. They're starting their publishing imprint. Everything that they do editorial-wise will be done with Editrix because they want it done with AI. Yeah. Forget the traditional. It's got to be done this way. And so it's training new editors as well. So AI can be used to train new publishers in a different way of thinking.
Absolutely. Thank you. In fact, one of the things you just mentioned, I want to briefly touch upon again because it's so amazing. You mentioned discoverability, Emma. And as we all know, discoverability is one of the biggest problems in the publishing industry. It briefly connects to the title of our session. There's a word superabundance written here somewhere. And I always say, where does superabundance end and oversupply start? Yeah. And as publishers, we know that there's a very thin line between those two things. And I remember that when people talk to us about, will AI take over writers, I'm just like, even if no one ever wrote another book again, there's still too many books out there. So one of Emma's clients, and would you like to tell everybody about Shimmer AI and what they're doing with discoverability, just to give people a sense of the options out there. So one of Emma's clients, or one of the companies she's associated with, Shimmer AI, is working on the discoverability problem, which I think is definitely the hardest problem in publishing, is how do you get your book to the reader? And would you like to tell the audience a bit about that?
Yeah, so it's making social media advertising a lot more effective and a lot more efficient. So it's using AI to create social media advertising for books, not showing the book cover, not showing the author face, but creating an image or wording with music, etc., that's really attractive, that draws people in to click through and discover more. So it's a different type of book advertising using AI, and then deploying it through social media channels using AI as well, so that those adverts find their readers a lot more quickly, a lot more easily. It finds their demographic. And it's been in business for 2 years now, and publishers are finding that their conversion to sales is much higher than traditional social media advertising. So it's a great case study of how when you're doing something already like social media advertising, it can be done a lot more effectively if you deploy AI and use a service that has been built with publishers in mind and really understands the book industry.
Absolutely. And Samir, tell us about Stack Books. How do you see yourself? I mean, we've talked about AI in theory. How do you plan to use AI in Stack Books for your authors?
So yeah, so the way I see it is...
and how does it work exactly? I think just for the audience, could you tell them how Stack works?
Yeah, so Stack is essentially a platform on which you start your account. There are a whole bunch of publishers using it. There are a few kinds of people for whom it makes the most sense. It's as simple as you upload a book, your PDF book, and it's now available globally for print or digital sale. You keep 80% of the money, 20% goes to the platform. You own every consumer who buys that book or reader who buys that book. This is essential, right? So over time, you start building your email list. Every time somebody purchases a book on Stack, anywhere in the world, you get an email, you can write them a note, and so on. So your second book is easier to sell. This is the biggest scam that the big retailers and Amazon has pulled off in denying publishers the basic knowledge as to who's buying your book, who are the folks. So we have built it from ground up to be as simple as social media to use. Literally, I'm going to leave my card here. Everybody go and create an account. We'll just make it a pro account, which has all the bells and whistles.
Freebies coming up.
Freebies. Then the second thing I would say is that if I look at traditional publishers, so Speaking Tiger is on it, Zuban is on it. We've just launched the ability to print anywhere in the world. Like if somebody buys your book in Germany, it gets printed in Germany. So a lot of these tariff issues, thanks to who, are gone with that. So we are seeing like a humongous uptake. And then the two other things I would say in just terms of the numbers, because it's sort of hypothetical. We have been around for a while where individuals were using it, it's only now publishers. And there are a whole bunch of people who are actually making thousands of dollars every month on using Stack for their, directly selling to folks. And in the US, the numbers are much bigger, right? So I'll give you an example. Tom Powers, who's the Toronto Film Festival director for many years, 20 years, he has published a book directly for his fans using Stack. It's about the 100 documentaries that changed his life, right? In the first 3 months, he has sold $30,000, net of this 80%. So sorry for mentioning crass numbers, but this is very important. This is the thing we need to know. So that's what it is. In terms of AI, the way I see AI, and this is some of the challenges as well as the upfront process of getting your book edited to be world class. Like I see that a lot of writers can actually use AI. Obviously, Editrix is a perfect example, a tool made by the industry for the industry. Packaging. I think cover design will remain a little controversial for a time because a lot of the art is just like, the training sets are questionable. However, creating all the marketing collateral for your book, so my pet peeve is that in the time of this sort of last few years of all this cost-cutting business, the industry has cut the cost in all the wrong places, right? So almost nobody has the marketing muscle. So other than editorial, the future imprints will have only marketing people, right? To me, book marketing. So that means, doing events. Publishing is meant to be like a celebration of life. What is all this nonsense about not doing parties? Like, who cut the cost for the parties? That's how people buy.
Is there anyone here?
I mean, it makes no sense. No, really.
I love it that there's a McKinsey guy here saying, who cut the cost for the parties?
No, I mean, it's exciting. That's what
I hope you gave reports like this to your clients when you were at McKinsey.
But it's
Don't cut the party budget.
No, I mean, I think it's the best way to recruit new writers. That's your thing. But but I really seriously mean it, that the industry has lost this mojo, which was around connecting with the audience on topics they truly care about. Right? This is not content. In Scroll, we banned the word content long back because Naresh Fernandez, who's the sort of editor of Scroll, hates the word because everybody uses it like it's some kind of commodity, right? And that's not what it, nobody in this room needs to be convinced of that. So if I go back and I look at the process from the beginning, right? Ideation, writing your first draft, creating a world-class, really publishable draft, putting it up, that's 2 minutes from stack as opposed to like 2 years on what it takes in and then spend all your time not on figuring out whether your book is available in the damn store, and spend all your time knowing the audience knows it, right? Even getting to the store is no problem. We are actually integrating with independent stores. They can buy it, right?
So will stack books be available in physical bookshops?
Yeah, so physical bookshop can just simply order from your, directly from your site, right? So for example, I'll give you a real life example. In the US, a lot of academic presses are the partners of Indian publishing houses like Chicago for Zuban and all of those, right? And they have over the last 4 or 5 years, because of the pandemic and before that, have stopped ordering books to their warehouses, right? So this is actually because you can order 1 or 500 or 5,000. So yeah, sorry. So that's the change, right? So that's what I'm hoping.
Thank you, Samir. Emma, I'm going to come back to you in a minute, Samir, because there's another thing I want to ask you about related to digital transformation of a legacy product, which I think you know what I'm going to ask you. But Emma, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the breadth of the work that you do and the different kind of clients that you work with and what you are seeing in terms of AI adoption with them? Because then we'll have one final question and then we'll open it up to the audience.
Sure. So my role is really to help companies and publishers explore international markets and also to seek cross-collaboration across them. So particularly with tech companies that are trying to break into the publishing industry or to garner international interest, then I will help them do that. But I also run an adult literacy program in the UK called Quick Reads, which helps adults that are learning to read, so with specially made content. So it's interesting trying to stay at the forefront of technology and also see how it's being adopted in different countries, in different parts of the world, seeing which countries are more reluctant, which ones are more advanced. So which ones?
Tell us a bit more about that. I'm very curious to see whether you see different attitudes in different countries.
Absolutely. So there are countries like Norway, for example. So our country partner, Norway, is
right over there.
Exactly. Home to EdTech. You know, there's so many EdTech companies now coming out of Norway and Scandinavia, and we're seeing the publishers there really receptive, particularly in the education space and trying to form education with technology. And so that's very much in the publishing space. We're seeing publishers really shift their business models to being AI-driven, technology-driven, so embedding AR, augmented reality, into textbooks, having AI tutors in the classroom to back up classroom teaching as well. So I think that's an interesting area to look at, is the adoption of, or the collaboration between AI publishers and the education space. Obviously the Asian markets like China, Korea, etc., where webtoons and scrolling comics, then they've been doing this for years, and so they're much more open to technology and technological advances than I would say we are in Europe. You only have to look at things like the adoption of ebooks and audiobooks and where that's taken up. So in the UK, the US, you know, it's a big part of publishers' revenues now, and audio, digital audio is the fastest growing format. But if you look at other parts of Europe, particularly France, for example, other southern European ones, it's not taken off at all. You know, we're really, they're a lot slower on the uptake. But I think Samir was right when he said earlier that India should be at the forefront of all of this. You know, everyone's got a smartphone. They
have the most to gain.
They've got the most to gain. Everyone's got a smartphone. The connectivity in this country is phenomenal, and there's a real opportunity for publishers to embrace that and to deliver content direct to the mobile phone and to make the most of what India has to offer on the technology side of things. So I'd like to see more of that.
Me too. Final question to Samir before we open it up to the audience, but I'm keeping a few minutes extra for the audience because I'd love to hear from all of you. One more thing, Samir, you're known for is how many of you are of the vintage that you remember what an Amar Chitra Katha is? Okay, that's great. So we've talked about Samir's work on Scroll, work on Stack. Do you know that Samir is very intimately associated with Amar Chitra Katha? Can you tell us about how you brought that kicking and screaming into the digital age.
Yeah.
And tell everybody what Amar Chitrakatha is, because I don't think Emma knows what it is.
Yeah. So it's one of India's best-known comic book, publishing houses.
Every kid grew up with an Amar
With it.
Chitrakatha, as you can see.
Yeah.
So, it's like, this was almost now 15, 20 years ago. Seems like a different age. But a bunch of us acquired Amar Chitrakatha, and I was significantly younger at the time, and went down every rabbit hole of Indian media. We made a bunch of films with Turner. We did a TV show, like everything that you think would lead to growth. And we also sort of added a few, Karadi Tales. I don't know if you know, Karadi Tales was one of the pioneers of audiobooks, and a bunch of things. So 20 years later, two things that sort of really worked. Again, overseas market. My belief in overseas market is because we essentially, the thing that made ACK at that point much more viable than ever was we did global free shipping and double the price for NRIs. That's it. I can say of all the things we did, 25 things.
Now McKinsey's talking.
Yeah, always double the price. People are willing to pay. I really believe that. So that's it. But we were the first on iPad. It was launched. That was my last year at ACK. It was acquired by Kishore Biani. We were on the very first iPad. We had all the comics. And again, I think India, there is no reason we should not be at the forefront of any of these things. That's why even at that time there was a lot of fear. We have nothing to fear. We have no revenues to speak of to lose. Like that, I really mean it. I don't mean that we have nothing to lose in the long run and think of these things strategically, but we have less to defend and much more to gain. So that's my learning.
Thank you so much, Samir. Thank you so much, Emma. Let's give our panelists a big hand, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. Thank you both very much. Any final thoughts before we open it up?
So many, but let's hear from the audience, and if we can always come back.
Who wants to go first? Yes, you. And please introduce yourself briefly and keep it to one question and no comments and stray thoughts, please. Sorry, I'm very strict on this.
Hi, my name is Prerna. I am from the Times Group. My question is about spotting trends. So, Samir mentioned overseas market. I would like to mention the Booker Prize. Like initially, when we saw Booker recognizing, say, Arundhati Roy's work, Kiran Desai, Arvind Adhika, now with the Man Booker Prize, there is a shift in terms of Gitanjali Shri and now Banu Mushtaq, being recognized. Do you see a shifting trend there that regional Indian languages translated into English are now getting more visibility abroad, and with this prize especially?
Is your question for Samir?
Whole panel, anybody can answer.
Would you like to take this one?
Yeah, like I can go on for 5 minutes ranting about this.
No, you are part of the same rules.
Yeah, all right. So I would say, yes, it's all good, but I think we have our own very, very large market, and we should figure out ways of encouraging it from within India, right? That it shouldn't take a Booker Award to get attention on it, and I don't think it will. Once again, that's why I really meant that we should not be not doing parties. We should be doing many more awards, so we should have our own awards that actually are big enough that people pay attention to it. For some reason, people only pay attention to international awards. So.
And I just want to give you the example of somebody who, last year, this time when we were in Jaipur, the #1 book on Amazon was a Kannada author.
Yeah.
And it was Telugu. It was a Telugu author, and it was small publishing house in India, organic growth all the way to #1 overall books. It was outselling James Clear, Harry Potter, everything. So that organic market is there, and I totally agree with you that to develop that market should be the priority. Who's next? No, sorry, there's too many other people. You can catch up with them afterwards.
And we've got a panel on international markets at 2 o'clock.
You should go for that, yes. This lady over here, then I'll come to you after that.
Hello, thank you so much for this wonderful session, all three of you. I'm Dr. Chavi Gandhi, and I'm a reader since more than 3 decades now. And what I have noticed in publishing industry is when we talk about future and trends, that publishing industry for the genres that we have read as readers, as a book club host I'm saying, they have reshaped our favorite genres, book to book. But this kind of reshaping has slowed down a little bit because of all the algorithm and data that we are getting nowadays. What are your thoughts on that?
I can take that one if you like. I actually disagree with you that I've never seen a moment in publishing history when genre publishing has been more vibrant. I think if you see around the world, genres which were seen as niche are now mainstream. You see romance, horror, supernatural, fantasy. These were considered to be very sort of fringe kind of genres. They are now leading the pack. There are new genres being created all the time. So personally, I don't see this happening on the ground. So I would encourage you to go out and maybe look within even Amazon or your bookshop and look for some of these genres because they're doing surprisingly well. Yes, who's next? Let's, I think I had asked you. And then after that, we can come to you.
Thank you for the lovely session. My name is Kavita and I'm a professor in computer science for the last 30 years. What I want to know is that if as an author I want to write a book, do I really need to now go to a publisher to get it published?
Right on
because I can now do it on my own. I can go to an AI person, he can develop the content for me. Is the publishing industry really dying out in India, or they need to reinvent themselves?
Yeah, so this is my...
yes, yeah, I know. Go for it.
So I think, contrary to all the tech enthusiasts, I actually believe that publishing industry does a very important task, and they will be direct, to fans, publishers, and writers too. Not publishers, writers. I think that what will happen is you'll see both the worlds thrive. You will need publishers in, to develop writers. It takes many years. That's what I meant. Like, this is the thing that should actually be what publishing houses invest in. But they are competing with what you are talking about, right? So the new world, the competition is between what's your value to the writer. I think there is immense value the publishers can bring, which is around marketing, developing the writer, the editorial inputs, all of that, and not figuring out whether your book is in the bookshop, right? But the entire publishing industry has spent so much time doing that. So they need to compete with people thinking exactly your question. As somebody from the publishing and the tech industry both, I would want the publishing industry to thrive. It actually adds a lot of value.
Thank you. Next question for Emma. Who has a question for Emma? Please only raise your hand then. Go for it. Yes, you.
Thank you for the insightful session. Really loved the discussion. One question for Emma is, and this is from publisher's standpoint, I wanted to know, like, what constitutes unethical use of AI by writers, especially? Because you get a lot of manuscripts. Do you have any in-house tools to figure out that this is AI written, this is human written? Because there are tools to even humanize writing. So how do you go about?
So I think it's what Meru referred to earlier as shadow AI. So using AI to create the content and not labeling it as created by AI. I think publishers are very open to works that have been developed with the assistance of AI, so being shaped or formed or edited using AI, but the creativity should come from the author. So the original idea, the original chapters, and I think it's very common now for writers to use AI to develop some ideas, then to write their novel, write their chapters, and have it edited or shaped or suggested by AI, but it needs to be a collaboration. It's not just, okay, go away and write this for me. It can develop thinking. So a children's author I spoke to recently had written a book, put it through AI, and asked for their feedback and said, well, I see this as a story about this, this, and this. And it's something that the author hadn't even considered, that that's what their book was about. And it really helped them re-look at their stories and reshape their stories to pull out what the AI had pulled out for them already and make them a better writer. But the writing was done by them. So I think it's admitting to it, labeling it, saying whether it's written by AI or shaped by AI, and not hiding from it, Which
is why we need a more open discussion in the industry, I think. Yeah. This gentleman over here.
I'm Vishwadip. So I use AI in two different industries, in automobile as well as publishing, as an independent publisher. and I think there is no denial that it will grow. But my question specifically, probably it is for Meru. When you look at Indian language publishing, editing is one area which suffers because of cost cutting. So do you think the AI and the editing tools that you and others are working on can support that? Because that will help a lot in improving that area.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I was trying to do. That the reason for that is that I always say I'm working in one of the few areas in AI which is going to replace no one, because there's so few editors anyway. That very few people, young people today, want to be editors. The ones who are there, and working, not paid the best. It's not a profession in which you see a lot of new, fresh talent coming in. So that was my idea, that in other languages we have used editrix in other languages as well. And I do hope to see, once people get over this initial fear of AI and see how it can help them, I hope they'll run with it and be able to bring out more books of a better quality, because that's what the readers want. And at the end of the day, we can all sit here together and talk about what our industry wants, and it's irrelevant, because the only thing which matters if you're an author or a publisher is what the reader wants. That's it. And the reader wants a well-written, well-edited, beautifully produced book, distributed well. And that's really all we should be thinking about. And we shouldn't really make this about ourselves. Our job is to be as invisible to the process as possible. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Dr. Sapna Sharma. I'm a counselor by profession. I have written and self-published a couple of books. It's very difficult to sell it. Everyone knows it. So with my profession, I have got presence on social media. The books sell. I've got very good feedback, but I'm tired of marketing myself. So I have this thought in my mind that, do publishers take interest in self-published book to republish it? And how to go about if that's possible?
Well, I mean, that's yes and no, but I'm going to let Samir answer this question, because it sounds like Stack is the right platform for something like this.
Yeah. So both things. First of all, I think what Stack can do is to make it easy to do the marketing. For example, build your email list and so on. But fundamentally, this is the task. It is really hard to market books, to develop an audience for it. And I would have no illusions about how difficult that is going to be. What we have done is that some of the simple things, so for example, if you're an independent publisher, whether it's news or anything, one thing you'll soon realize is your audience is very fragmented, right? You may have like 2 readers in Assam, but they really are passionate about it. So we have made it possible for you to find those 2 people should be able to order your book, right? Right now, your biggest challenge, if it is not an ebook and it's just a print book, is that's a problem. But I think that there are, and we will share that with you, there are best practices that at the very least people should be doing. Again, I see that in the industry, the entire, marketing thing at muscle has completely atrophied. There is no direct-to-consumer marketing skills left inside of publishing. It's entirely B2B. Trying to get your books to be seen on Amazon. Oh my God, that's like, I don't know how we fix that. But for an independent publisher, yeah, we can there are a bunch of things you can do that are straightforward.
I'll answer that question. So it depends. To be perfectly honest, they will take interest in your book if it already has very high sales, otherwise not. That's the honest answer. There was this gentleman over here, and actually, would you mind if I come back to, we have enough time? Because this part of the room has been strangely quiet, and I want to know why is everybody on that side so quiet? There's this lady over here, yes. All the questions are coming from here.
Hiya, I work for an independent publisher in the UK called...
Sorry, could you speak up, please?
Sorry. I work for an independent publisher in the UK called Dead Ink Books. We're actually committed to not using AI for any of the creation of our books, and that includes kind of editorial. This is a question for Emma. I was quite interested in what you said about an author feeding a book into AI and it's telling her what it's about, because, for instance, we publish a horror novel that is about a woman who cuts out a piece of her son's lung and it grows into a monster. every reader who reads that knows that it's a book about grief, it's about maternal rage, it's about whether there's limits to love, but none of that is explicitly said. It's all learned through nuance, through subtext, through readers having this human experience. Surely AI could never, you know, I just don't understand how AI could have that reading of the book, because they don't have those, they just don't have those skills or that experience.
I think it depends on how you prompt and how you have a dialogue with AI. You know, it's not simply, you're not going to upload it and say, tell me what this means. You're going to be a bit more nuanced about the questions and the dialogue that you actually have with AI. And I think that comes from experience, it comes from practice. I think, you know, a lot of people go in and expect answers immediately, like go in and type something, upload something, can expect answers immediately and then believe those answers. But that's not how AI should be used. It should be used as a collaborative partner, a creative partner. And so if you're in conversation, in dialogue, asking the right questions, then you're going to get a lot more back from AI, and you probably will get there eventually. So it takes time.
Yeah, I was going to say something else. That part of the the input that AI can give is not so much from an editorial point of view, understanding the book, but how to market this specific book. So I know Shimmer's example used to be from the music industry, because it's something different from us. We can be more dispassionate about it, right? So music, when sold online on social media, has far more variables than selling even a car, which has many features, right? Because it depends on the psychology of the listener more than the description of the product, right?
It's like music for when you're sad, music for when you're happy.
Right? So being able to, I simply think that we should not, I think that human interpretation of a work of literature is going to be very different than AI, right? But we should not underestimate what AI can do for where the industry's muscles are the least developed, which is to sell to a completely different set of audiences, right? So that's the way I would think about it.
Thank you. And this gentleman over here, and with that, I think that's going to be the final question, yeah. And please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Hitat. I'm an aspiring writer. So like speaking of music, you said. So I just had one doubt. I'm 100% aligned with the use of AI in marketing and finding a marketplace. But how about AI in the use of creation itself, even in terms of editing? Does that not dilute the individual author voice, which is one of the main factors what readers look for? So is it going to be like music where majority of the songs now sound the same? Is it going to be a point where many books will also start sounding the same? You will say, okay, this is from Claude AI. So is that a possibility? Is that a growing concern?
Shall I take that one? So the answer is yes and no. If you, as Emma said, if you are a writer and you go and use a free version of ChatGPT, then the answer is yes. I've literally spent the last 2 years developing my product exactly for this reason, that I wanted to preserve the voice. So what I have built is really an effort to make it do something, but also not do something, right? So telling it where to stop is what I do. Separately, editing is not just, editing is a very technical profession. A lot of people don't realize that. So for professional publishing, you need to be able to say, please edit this according to British English, New Hart's rules, IZE spellings. It's a very technical job, which requires only those changes to be made and no others. So that's what we use it for. Or if you're publishing a book which is in America, you need to use Chicago Manual of Style. You may or may not use IZE spellings depending on the publisher preference. Or you may or may not use a serial comma. These are technical decisions taken by editors for which we use AI, which does not change the author's voice. And it only does that and no more. So that's what we are using it for. But if you put your book into free ChatGPT, yes, probably it will make everybody sound the same. So that's why we always say, let's try and do it in a way, encourage an open conversation rather than saying all AI is the same. It is not. In fact, we should not think about AI as this huge monster in a room. Instead, the last thing I would like to say before I've been told we have to close it up now is do not think about AI as just this kind of monolith. It is a set
or just ChatGPT.
Or just ChatGPT. There's a lot of things out there. It is a set of skills which, as a professional, I would encourage you to learn, because it is going to be a part of people's lives in the future. And sort of think of it in those terms as rather than sort of a monster which is going to take over all our life. This is a set of skills, just like, however many years ago we learned how to use Microsoft Word for editing and macros and things like that. We're learning a new set of skills which is going to help us in our work. I've been told I need to wrap it up now. So thank you very much to the audience. You've been a very engaged audience. And thank you, Emma. Thank you, Samir.